Have you ever had a bowel movement so angry that it makes you question like the afterlife and like your spirituality? Screw you guys. You know what makes me angry? Cannibalistic clowns that rape you before they eat you. That makes me angry.
Hey everyone, this is Joe from Tank Podcast, and welcome to our latest episode all about anger. And if you don't like it, you can go to hell. No, I'm not serious. I'm very bad at pretending to be angry, but it is an interesting emotion to examine and to talk about. So that's really what we try to do in this episode. We have a little fun with it, but we get in really deep in terms of, what's the value of anger? What's the point? What's the purpose? Where is it warranted? Where is it not warranted? Just as many philosophical as well as practical questions in terms of what exactly is anger and what is its value or what is its worth. So some really interesting conversations, some great craft beer. I think you'll have a really great time with it. And yeah, check out our new website. We are now at thunkypodcast.com. We have a real.com. It's very exciting. And we have the blog there, as well as a lot going on YouTube as well. We're doing a lot of videos, clips, and extra projects on YouTube. So check us out there. You can access that through either our Podbean page or just our main website at, again, thunkypodcast.com. That's thunk with a U. So anyways, thanks for listening, and we will see you in the tank. You better be there. I'm not really mad, but I will be if you leave. Whatever. Enjoy.
Attention humans, this is a thunk tank. Please insert this podcast directly into your nearest orifice for viewing pleasure.
Okay, you ready? Oh shit.
Welcome to the thunk tank. Welcome to the thunk tank.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Come into our thunk tank.
Luke, don't switch to the other peanuts.
Welcome to the thunk tank. Come in the tank. We're thinking, and we're drinking,
and we're thunked.
Oh my god, I'm probably more beer than man if we go far enough back at this point.
Say the line you just said, something about... Anyways, we're going.
You're going to say it, and you're going to say it again, and you're going to enjoy it.
I've been seething in anger all day in anticipation.
I'm so angry. You're gonna get it done, sir. I'm really bad at pretending to be angry. Simmer. What?
I'm more of a rageful simmer.
Like constantly?
Yeah, generally.
Like the Hulk?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So
but with higher blood pressure.
You're simmering, and all it takes is the smallest little thing for you to turn into a kitchen fire.
Yeah, but I think it's pronounced cinnamon.
Simmering?
Simmering.
Now you
all
just
right.
sound stupid.
So I had kind of fun today when we decided the topic, and then we said anger, because I got to drive around all day and just go...
Give in to your anger.
I sort of led into the angry side of my mind a little more in order to kind of think of funny...
Do it.
The funny ways that being angry makes you see the world. Because, let's be honest, anger is obviously really awful and toxic, and we'll get into all that probably. Yeah. But it also is the birth of a lot of comedy.
Have you ever had it like a bowel movement so angry that... Well, first of all, so powerful that you attribute emotions to it, like anger.
Like the way it came out of you was with anger?
Its life force was that of anger. But have you ever had a bowel movement so angry that it makes you question the afterlife and your spirituality?
No, it made me question if I should eat the thing I ate again, or I never questioned spirituality from a bowel movement.
It makes me question if I should go back to that Indian place.
Dude, speaking of Indian food, wait, this is not an Indian food episode.
I mean, that's the alternative. What, did that make you angry?
I mean, in a way, it made me puzzled. I had an Indian food buffet before a concert, an orchestra concert. So, a rehearsal from 2 to 5, and then a break from 5 to 8. The concert started at 8, and I was on the first piece. And so I went to an Indian buffet dinner. Got back to the school, got in my tuxedo, and I was like, when in 10 minutes shit's going down?
Literally.
Yeah. I was like, huh. And it wasn't even like I could deal with it in that exact moment. It was 7:30 or so.
Yeah.
I was like, I will have to deal with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I can't deal with it on stage, right?
that's the last place you're gonna want to deal with.
So I was dealing with it at
Depends
like
on the
7:55. I'm like frantically wiping, being like, "Oh my god, I gotta get out there! Like, oh my god, please let this be the one event. No more, no more."
But could you imagine if you walked out and you just had like you finished the concert and then you realized that you were just in view of the crowd with your foot with just like
Toilet
6
paper?
feet of toilet paper dragging behind?
Dude, so like, I don't get angry in that kind of situation. I just get like,
Frantic.
just like puzzled, and like I can't control it, so I can't get angry. I tend to get angry at people and their stupidity. That's the thing that I can't seem to control it all the time. Otherwise, I kind of know this quote I was going to open the podcast with. It's anonymous, but it goes like this: "Some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue."
What?
I don't like that quote.
It means some
There's
days
so-
you're
there's
shitting
so
on
many-
people and you might
there's
not
so
even
many
know it,
better
and other
versions.
days you're getting shat on.
There's so many better versions of that same quote.
What's the
Some
southern
days you're
version of that? Because
some
that
days
sounds
you're
like the southern version of that.
Some days you're the dog, others you're the hydrant. You know, some days you're.
I feel like it's worse to get pooped on than peed
No,
on.
I like the dog version though because people are more like dogs. Like you always hear people say
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that guy's
And-
like he acts like a dog," or like whoever acts
and
like a
the
dog. You don't hear
the
people like
prison
he's acting like a
statue
pigeon again.
relationship is a little more
Damn
symbiotic.
pigeons.
Yeah.
You know, the statue gives the pigeon a place to hang out on top of a poop perch.
All right,
So
let's
I
not
don't
let's
like
not
your-
pick it apart.
No, I'm picking
think
it
it's too
apart.
late.
All right, I was told to get angry this cast. Don't tell me when to get angry.
Only the Sith deals in absolutes, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Well, who said that? The same Jedi
said that?
asshole. The same Jedi asshole who said "do or do not." There is no try. Sounds real fucking absolute.
Yeah, and
all right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, self-contradictory.
I have my own
But
issues with
isn't
the
that the whole
failing
point?
Jedi Order.
Isn't that the whole point of that Eastern philosophy shit? It is self-contradictory, and then you have to be like, "Oh my god, the contradiction."
Yeah.
Mind blown.
So Eastern philosophy listeners, tweet us about how accurate.
No, I'm
that
going to
is.
defend most of
I believe you.
Eastern philosophy in terms of
most of
how
my
it
problems are with
deals with
Yoda.
anger.
With yogurt.
Yoda specifically.
who's not a real philosopher. He's a Muppet from a movie.
So you think he's a
80s
scam?
film, but-
He's a charlatan.
Yeah, I mean, he's. I trust his philosophies more than Joel Osteen. That guy. I love what Bill Burr says about him. He's like, you see him, he closes his eyes because he's like, he can't handle actually looking people in the eye when he's lying to that man. I feel Jesus. He wants you to give me his money. Are they still there?
That's
Like-
hilarious. I haven't seen
And
that
Bill
bit.
Burr does a whole thing on Joel Osteen, but the guy, yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't
that
want to
guy.
open his eyes and realize to himself what he's doing, let's say.
That's interesting.
Or
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the version if he's lying. I don't know about Joel Epstein. Like Epstein, he might be like a
Osteen.
totally genuine whatever, but he might be a complete liar too.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
could say that
I
about
mean-
everybody, right?
Remember
No, there
when
are
he didn't
people
let
that are 50-50 for me. I'm going to say you're like 90-10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Johnny's like 95-5.
But do you remember when he wouldn't let the poor people in his mega church because of the carpets or something? They just had new carpets after
Oh,
the Houston
yeah.
hurricane. He has a mega
The
church.
least
Like he's made millions of dollars
spiritually
off of
enlightened thing
preaching.
you could possibly do.
And the one time they asked for something back besides rhetoric, like physical help, he was like, "No, I don't think so." Oh, we have flooding in the basement. We can't. It's like, isn't it a giant amphitheater? Like everyone's basement is flooded. That's why we're here.
Dude, Noah's Ark,
Yeah,
bro.
he's an ass.
Do you even Noah's Ark, bro?
And he didn't even have advice. He was just like, "I'm going to stay home."
I'm not coming into work today.
Before we
Yeah,
feed our
it's like,
anger, y'all want to... Whoa.
What was that?
You all want
right.
to announce
Who?
what beer's in store for us this episode?
Yeah, give me one of those.
Sure,
let's
I'll get
our-
right on
I mean,
that after
I
y'all
already-
do.
I said,
Uh,
give me one of the beers.
Pre-gamed with a Dale's.
I feel like
Pale
when
Ale.
I feel like when I try to get angry, it's like that episode of Seinfeld where Jerry, every time he tries to get angry, they're just like, no, your voice just kind of rises to comedic pitch.
Yeah, you never really yell. It just rises.
Nice.
It's kind of a funny pitch.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a collab beer from Casita Cerveceria.
Great
and
brewery.
Resident Culture, two great breweries. And it's an Imperial triple, it's a triple IPA,
Nice.
hazy IPA called High Fives and Good Vibes. So we'll get this out of the way fast and we can get into, vitriol. And,
Yeah, I got
and
I
anger
got a
and
clip to
rage.
play for us. Can I play the clip?
Yeah, let's
Let me
let's
pour
play
the beer
clip.
because I have to... So we're drinking, Joe, tell the fine folks.
So we have a lovely beer here today from Sand City. I believe it's pronounced Mofosaic. Really nice, really bright, fruity.
Made with mosaic hops.
Yeah, I love those mosaic hops. They really pop, and I would say. Oh, you haven't tried this one yet, but
I've had it in the past. But anyways, we picked these up from Sand City today.
Yeah,
I haven't been there in like.
I'm really enjoying all the mosaic
6 months.
puns. I just saw one in the store the other day that was
Fucking idiot.
you fucking piece of
It
shit.
was mosaic aphrodisiac. And I was like, that's a really hard one to say. It's a big stretch, but
Ooh,
That's really cruel to make drunk people try to order that.
well, someone was just telling me today about an energy drink that he would sell specifically in low-end strip clubs.
it's pronounced specifically.
And it was called something like that, like some ass, or it's just so people would come up and order and be like, "Can I get some ass with my vodka?" Ha ha. And it's like, it's supposed to.
That must get really old really quick, like working that behind that bar. Hey, can I get some more ass? And it's like, just tip me and leave, please.
So we're drinking this Sand City, and we have a few others. We always put them in the episode notes. Like we'll just like list the beers we remember having, not necessarily
And
every
our custom
one.
beer fridge, of which you can order a copy on our website. I'm just trying to hype us up a little more. we never plug our merchandise.
Custom beer fridge. You know what it is? It's a regular mini fridge you'd see in a dorm, but we just got some Red Ryder BB guns and got wasted and tried to shoot our logo in the side. Didn't work. So it's just a dented mini fridge, but it costs about 30% more than a regular mini fridge.
Yeah,
So.
and you can buy it online anytime.
Like sharing.
We should do a whole episode of just bad product ideas.
That would be great if somebody like then complained
like
on Twitter.
a wheelable
Like, where's your website?
toaster oven. It's like a toaster oven on wheels, and you're like, for that weird time where I have to shift it slightly.
Dude, weird people would buy that. They would buy
How
it
about
for
a
like
fry cooker
as like
that
couple
floats
gifts
on the
and shit,
water?
you know?
So you could go to the beach and you could take the hot oil-filled fry cooker out to the water. No splashing.
It's like, how do you not even guard against the easiest poke at making that idea not work?
Oh, there's a waiver. You have to
So,
sign a waiver just to watch the commercial.
That's probably for the best.
Here's my general take on anger, and maybe I'll read some of these cool Buddhist
Hey, Luke,
quotes
why
I
don't you
found
tell us
about
how
it.
you feel about anger? Because that's what we were waiting for.
Yeah, Luke. Screw you and your anger.
I was wondering if you could, very, what's the word? Clumsily and haphazardly steer the conversation towards where you want. So how about anger?
It's otherwise known as the topic of the episode, but yeah.
And also, let me share Buddhist quotes. No, you tell us some quotes.
No, I was going to start with a story that I wrote down in my phone. I have like a notes app, and I just it's kind of like a journal-ish, but it's just whenever I have an idea that I want to write down. And one time it was a Sunday morning, and me and my girlfriend had gone to the gym. I did like a hard workout, and then on the way back, it was like, oh shit, look at the time. Quick, let's find some food. I have to get you to your house, and then I have to go home and shower and change to teach.
None of
it was
these
like,
details are important.
I'm trying to build the tension of what the situation
Can you
was.
imagine when Luke's 85?
You're building the tension in my body as I get angry.
That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. Because the tension was building in my body too, right? Like that feeling of like I'm already late. We're trying to get.
But
food
I'm not.
'cause
You're
we're-
not putting me in the situation with you. I'm angry at you telling this bad story.
Oh, yeah,
not
I'm just
angry.
trying to get anger to
No.
develop in any form I can.
Johnny's spot on because you're identifying telling versus showing, which is the first rule of what not to do in storytelling.
Thank you,
In
Joe.
any case.
Joe knows how to.
No, just
sound
explain what happened. No, I want juicy details. I want you to go deeper. Just narrate.
In any case, we hit these like rough railroad tracks,
Here you
and
go.
whatever food
Yeah.
we had purchased spilled all over the car.
Splattered. Use stronger
Oh, no.
vocabulary.
Someone's like honking at me from behind, and like there was
Slamming
just
on
this,
their
like,
car horn.
It was like the
Ugh.
three hurricanes colliding during the perfect storm.
Yeah. In that like second, right? Like
So I just like blinkered off and like pulled to the side of the road, and like I thought to myself, you know, in a normal day, I probably would have gotten insanely angry in that moment, but I had just come from the gym, and I kind of just giggled and said, well,
yeah.
at least I'm not also a fat, lazy piece of shit. You know, like I just moved my body around at the gym, and like, you know, all I did was spill food. So I sort of just like, because I had pushed my body and been in a workout mode, you know, that post gym high,
yeah.
nothing can touch you almost.
Yeah, you were
know?
you were able to channel your rage from being angry to hating fat people, it sounds like you just said.
No, I mean, I mean, sure, some of them.
So Luke channels his rage at his own impotence of navigating the modern world by putting yourself on a bit higher pedestal than those less physically desirable than.
I guess.
Wow, that was a very psychological way of saying what I did.
If Johnny's going to do like a Carl Jungian like psychological analysis on me,
a way to try to defend yourself. I'll throw out a guy's name. That'll make it harder.
I was going to go Freudian, but that seemed too obvious. So I was going like, making the joke.
I just read a Freud quote that made me angry. Actually, can I share that?
You have it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Civilization began the first time a man cast a word instead of a stone in anger, or something really dumb. It's just stupid to think.
I mean,
that,
it's one of those quotes that sounds good, but it's like, no, it didn't.
But I don't think.
Also, it's not true, and it doesn't mean it.
Yeah,
Well, what he's trying to say is the moment that human beings figured out that they could solve problems through conversation, not violence. That's the building, the foundation of civilization. I get what he's saying. It's just not true. Like the first one wasn't like the.
But I don't even know if that's true psychologically, because it's not like they started building civilization.
And it's not like we're done with violence, and it's not like...
because it's like the tribe was always able
also,
to negotiate amongst itself. It's the problem
I was going to say that, yeah.
Negotiating with the outsiders, which the rise of civilization only made worse.
And also, it's not like other species haven't learned to negotiate. Right?
That's true, too,
Like reciprocal action
much
is like
better
very...
than we have
goes back.
in some senses.
I don't know. I think I'll get a better price on a truck than a dolphin would.
Yeah,
but like
that's
among the owns. Yeah, Johnny. Obviously, we can't talk to dolphins and monkeys. Wait.
Well, you guys, you make these claims and you can't back up your arguments at all.
What are you talking about?
Like, I know it's tough. Like, when I have an issue with the cable company, you have to spend a couple hours on the phone with them dealing with it.
What issue?
I still think I'm doing
what is he
better than a
talking about?
toucan would.
What? I have no idea what you're.
He keeps switching animals to keep us off guard too.
Are you trying to make us angry? I'm just confused.
I was trying to confuse you. I got lost in my own metaphor. What are we talking about?
We'll probably listen to
Johnny, what's
and
your
be like, oh, those are all the rails that we fell off.
Rail slips. We call them
Rail
by their
slips.
legally correct name.
Yes, for the emperor.
Johnny, what's your definition of anger?
My definition?
Yeah.
Just based on nothing?
Based on you've been a human for 29 years.
Yeah.
I would
been
say way to dox my age. That wasn't cool, Luke.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be an ageist.
I guess it would maybe people perform injustices like that on a public stage against people like you just did.
Well, Johnny, most listeners think you're like wildly older than that. Like everybody I talk to thinks they're like, oh yeah, so your brother is the other podcast, podcast guy, and they're like, yeah, so I didn't know that you had an older brother. I'm like, I don't. And then they say, wait, what? I thought Johnny was like 40.
I mean, mileage-wise, I'm older.
I just think it's because you sound so wise.
You're a newer model airplane,
sure.
but they really use you.
Because you speak like when you get into genie mode, that's the conviction of an overweight, middle-aged American who's just set in place.
I'm on my way to that.
In fact,
I know a lot of Long Islanders who are not going to change.
If you've never heard our Drunk Tank episodes, I changed our intro to be like a trippy, weird version. And
they don't care, Luke. They're this far in the episode. They know. They heard it.
Huh?
They're listening. We're 15 minutes in. They've heard our Drunk Tank intro.
Tank.
I said Drunk Tank. I made it.
Oh, is this a Drunk Tank?
No, this is an episode.
I thought this was an episode too.
That's hilarious.
Maybe I should be a little more composed. I thought this would be behind a paywall.
Wait, Johnny, you didn't know that this was an episode?
I mean, whatever. So what I think of is anger.
This is all staying
intellectually
this is all going. We always air this. We always show all of it.
Oh, yeah, there's no editing. No, answer your question, though. Anger, I think, is when you have an emotional response where as a reaction rather than a response.
Yeah, but do you think it can be both, too? Like...
It can, because I mean, it's hard to say because it's a valid human emotion, but there's righteous anger,
right?
Yeah. There's also misplaced anger. There's aggression. There's passive aggression, which is shitty in its own way, and there's a lot of anger rooted behind that. So it's really hard. What does it mean to me? I'm an idiot. I'm not a linguist or a psychologist. So
I think I know what it means to you.
But for me in my life, it's when I have an emotional.
Yeah, I
response
think Joe's
to
got this one for you,
I
Johnny.
would rather not have an emotional.
Yeah, Johnny, tell me if this sums up. This is by a great psychologist. He's been around. I forget his name, but he's been around for like 20-something years now, like very popular.
Maybe you'll recognize it.
Yeah, it's pronounced cyclist.
You might you might recognize him. Tell me if you recognize him.
Oh my God, is it Kermit?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane! Everybody strap in!
Yeah, I mean that's anger is that is a great example of it's when the other emotions, the other mental processes break down. Like when I tried, okay, like I'm trying to get somewhere and my car starts to make a funny noise. Well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe I can rationalize. And then it just starts overheating and the engine dies. And then I'm going to have an angry reaction because I have no other recourse.
Or like
to get angry and punch the steering wheel because I can't fix it.
Or you need to get everybody in line to strap in because you're going to shoot the fucking window because you're tired of these snakes on this plane. Right. So you have to make it clear that you better strap in. You can't just yell, all right, everybody strap in. I'm going to do something. You have to give the preamble about how you're done with these snakes. And then everybody's like, oh, shit, this guy's.
So it's definitely
because that is what he does, right? He shoots the window out to suck the snakes out.
Yeah, to suck the snakes out. Yeah.
And it's okay. It worked in the movie. In the context of that
How
movie,
many times would that fuck everything up twice as much?
Yeah, he was at the point where it's like, I've had enough with trying to contain the snakes, trying to drive the snakes back. I'm just going to risk everybody's life because I'm done with them. Either way, there's no more snakes after this point. Either they're dead, or we're all dead.
It's
Either
also
way,
like, why did he he clearly had to be the responsible one on the plane, and it always sucks when you're the one that people have to lean on. You know, when there's a crisis, like when we were upstate at a cabin, Johnny, and we had to call 911, your wife ended up being like the go-to person because she has the most medical training. And she's
just good in those situations.
She's also very good in emergencies.
She's good at reacting.
And like I'm good at just kind of freezing like a deer in headlights and being like, ooh, something's happening.
Yeah.
I think I just went and made coffee downstairs. I was like, I know how to do at least this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to help the situation at this point.
I was so wasted. I just sat on the bed and stared off. I remember doing that while I heard everyone scurrying.
So what I said, you knew that you weren't going to help add to the situation.
Yeah, I was like, is there anything I could do? And I'm
exactly.
I guess. And I'm like, that didn't sound like enough. I'm going to sit here.
It was early morning.
I'm going to sit here and not mess things up worse.
We partied till like late night, meaning like 3, 4 a.m. So when you wake up to an emergency at 8 a.m., you're probably still drunk if you did it right.
I was.
Yeah, that all checks out.
Really killed the weekend, too. We were supposed to make breakfast
you were pretty
and hang
angry.
out. Everybody at 8:15 was like, well, that was a downer. I'm just going to head home.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Very, very angry.
Really killed the vibe.
It killed the momentum.
Yeah, which was dwindling to begin with. It didn't take much. But I wasn't angry at that. I was just disappointed.
I got to find something that makes you angry.
Definitely one of the words that comes to mind with anger is comedy, because I think it leads to a lot of great comedy. But also...
people like laughing at that.
Well, no, I mean, like, for me personally, let's say anger is like something that I have on a leash. If I let the leash go a little looser, I think funnier things as I, like, pick people apart, you know?
But you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
No, I think
insane.
we're all crazy, and I think most people's anger stems from the fact that they just can't admit to themselves that they're a crazy motherfucker who has crazy motherfucking thoughts.
Oh, I think a lot of anger it comes from certain types of anxieties and insecurities.
Why am I cursing
for sure.
so much?
Because you're pissed off, dude.
I guess I'm just angry.
But you know what I mean? Because I definitely see that in people who are either narrow-minded. Like, the more narrow-minded you are, I feel like the angrier of a person you are, because you don't have the tools to make sense of things and to rationalize.
To make a bigger picture.
Yeah, certain events or actions that people do. And you see this oftentimes where I'll see people getting into arguments, and you just think to yourself, these people are just arguing because that's what they do. Like, they have nothing else to do. They're not happy with their lives.
Almost like it's their version of watching Netflix.
They're not happy with their relationships.
It's their entertainment.
Oh, you're talking about Twitter.
Well, a lot of people use it.
Twitter's a big outlet for that. I mean, social media in general. Businesses make a ton of money on this, right? This is how articles get circulated on social media that are just made to make people angry and, pissed off.
So I definitely think that
it's a business.
People can get addicted to anger like that, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know people who will keep going back to their phone throughout the course of a day to like respond to a stranger on some ongoing argument.
Oh, God.
I know.
To
Specifically.
me, it's one thing they think of it as this
We've
is my
seen that.
feed, this is my space. Like you know what I mean? I commented on something like maybe it's somebody you even know, or you have that ownership feel of like I could talk about this, and then someone either comes back at you and people engage, but. I just imagine like if you're walking through the mall in the food court and somebody looks at you and goes, asshole, you know what, let me turn around and engage with that person because it's probably worth my time. You would never do that, but for some reason, if it's online, well, they are also talking about this thing I care about, so I'm going to argue with them for 30 replies.
Also, the risk is a lot lower, right? If you do it online, like what's going to happen? They're going to reply. In person, when you get in someone's face, you're always at the risk of physical violence.
The problem with social media is that on a very basic surface level, that seems like it should be a good thing, right? Because you can say what you honestly maybe feel or how you honestly assess what somebody says because you don't have to worry about an uncomfortable situation, like an uncomfortable reaction. But what I think it actually does is it allows people to emote in ways that aren't honest and aren't genuine, right? Like reactions that they want to troll you, like they want to get a rise out of you, or they know, well, nobody can come after me or can scold, chide me.
The anonymity.
Yeah, exactly. So I can say things.
No accountability.
Yeah, I can say things like either to be a provocateur or much, much worse, just things that I haven't thought through, right? Because I wouldn't go out into the food court and declare that the world is flat.
And you probably
right?
wouldn't even
because people would be like, "You're an idiot."
You wouldn't
shut
even
up.
say these things in a group of friends because you'd be worried about your reputation.
Exactly, but if you say it to the whole world, you're saying it to everyone and no one.
So it definitely encourages like all the bad things without, having that like reputation worrying in you, right? You can just be an asshole people, on an anonymous Twitter handle.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Is that
Should
why
Twitter be anonymous?
Is that why people are? It's a dumb question. Is that why people? I'm just going to be mean to you this whole cast.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think Johnny really means that.
Joe could tell you the look on my face was like, what?
I kind of do though, because people.
Well, you can go fuck yourself. So how about that?
It's because is that what are most people doing it?
I knew it.
It's happening. Yes. Are most people doing it because they think I can be a dick anonymously and I can get somebody like raging and hyperventilating in their bedroom having this argument with me? Or are most people raging and hyperventilating back and forth with each other? I feel like it's more of this person's
both.
so wrong, I'm going to deign to respond to this idiot.
I think a lot of people are genuinely that angry and feeling that
too,
righteous every time they hit send on an angry
especially
response.
And I think
Twitter,
it's
because
like a
only,
hamster thing. It's like you're hitting the button for the treat every time you get a reaction out of somebody,
and
right?
Those hamsters get addicted to Coke
and then
so fast.
somebody likes your counter to them, and it's this weird like anonymous public forum where you're getting points and you're getting clicks of satisfaction. It's weird.
But it's not like the Roman Forum where you could just stand up and start like talking your opinion loudly and be like, I think that the rights of the so-and-so and like some people might gather around and like boo you or cheer you, or some other guy, like the crowd might push someone up there to argue against you. But like the feedback was
that sounds
with
awesome.
real people. Yeah. So it's a lot different than
and real social signals and stuff where like I said, the physical violence is more in your mind as a possibility.
The number one fear is still public speaking, right? Glossophobia.
By far.
Yep.
It's worse than the fear of dying.
Death. Yeah.
Which shows you we're social animals that evolved like together.
Exactly. That's more important to us.
But it's such a new landscape, the social media thing. I just hate the phrase social media. It makes it sound so much fancier than it really is. It's just connecting idiots.
Yeah.
That'd be a great name.
Figured out how to do it with banks back in the 80s.
I wish I could say it was 50-50, like 50% positive effects and 50% negative effects. But I think it's something more like maybe 20% positive at most and 80% negative.
Well, do you know what's crazy is that I don't know how true this is, but I
don't know what's crazy. What's crazy?
Oh, you don't know how true it is, huh? So you're just going to say it anyways, you jackass?
Well, I feel like, Johnny, you remember growing up, you both remember growing up with the internet.
Don't tell me what I know.
Coming from a time
Don't project onto my memories.
When
gaslighting piece of shit.
When it first happened, the internet, I remember going on forums and stuff, like in chat rooms and stuff. And
I was talking about
but that
this
was
with
always a
somebody.
better experience than the nonsense I see people just shouting about on Twitter and Facebook today. Like that's leagues worse than conversations I would see on message boards and stuff in like the late 90s.
That's
and early
because
2000s.
in the 90s everything was so separated still. The internet wasn't like it was such a new thing. You had to carve out your places. Now you just Twitter. You're in the same room with everyone. You used to, like, let's say you were really into electrical engineering. You'd go find an electrical engineer's message board with very like-minded people, and and so the social cues of that group would, because why would, like, it's hard to troll that group without those kind of groups without at least knowing enough about it to know how to troll them.
Yeah.
It's
You're
weird
right.
to do that to a community you actually care about.
Yeah, you're right. Like,
because there
you
was
used
some
to have
like,
one Aunt Gladys, and now there's just chat rooms full of Aunt Gladyses, and they all have insane opinions.
What do you mean,
about-
Aunt Gladys?
Like she's just your crazy aunt who thinks she knows how Trump's Christ.
Whereas,
And
like, there was,
now there's
And will
just-
ruin the party wherever she is.
But there used to just be one of those you had to deal with in your life, and it was like, whatever, it's just Aunt Gladys. But now you go online and you might find a section of the Aunt Gladyses can all get together and come up with insane ideas, and
Right.
that's a little more.
There's an Aunt Gladys bias.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's a problem when it masses up. It hits critical mass, and it actually is something.
there's something to be said for like membership, and if you're trying to build an online community, the anonymity thing is weird with Twitter.
You know what it's so
But
similar to?
it's
The
pronounced
anonymity that you
hippopotamus.
get in a mob. When you're in a mob,
Oh,
you're
that's a
capable
good
of much
point. Yeah.
worse, awful behavior because you know you're not individually responsible. And the same
Even if
thing
you
happens.
kick the guy first, you might not remember it. You might not even remember that.
You will block
everyone
it
went
out,
nuts
yeah.
and turned on this guy.
Right.
No, you stomped his head first, and everyone else thought it was okay to jump in. Oh no, the mob turned on this guy.
Exactly.
I was just pulled towards the front. I had to see it. It's like, what?
And-
No, you were.
Well, there's an escalation that you're just a part of. You're just like one of the steps on that.
and the animal comes
staircase.
out in you in the presence of a group.
You're like, oh yeah, I'm step
Yeah.
C, which happens to be the step that crushes this guy's head.
And so this is kind of like that on Twitter with the anonymity, or even Twitter mobs, which are a real thing, where like these groups will get together and try to out someone just because they said slightly something wrong, right? Like
They're coming for you, Luke.
ruin a life
They're coming
because
for you.
Well, so the perfect example is the anger expressed during the Covington Catholic school kids hold debacle.
I'm not getting into that.
No, I'm not either. I'm just
no,
saying.
let's have 3 angry white guys talk about this issue. Let's do it.
No, not the issue itself, but like
No,
the
I'm not
anger
against talking about
expressed
the
in
issue.
tweets,
I'm just done with everybody having an opinion on that.
Like, do you think Kathy Griffin would
I don't think about Kathy.
regret her saying?
I hated her before everybody hated her.
I hated her on Seinfeld.
Yeah, I would just like
Since
to say
Seinfeld,
Yeah,
I
I've been
hated her.
She
I've
was
been hating
playing
her
a
for
hateable
25
character,
years.
and
Yeah.
it worked.
And hate and anger. You want to feed those.
Oh, that's right.
things.
Her character
They're
was all about
good.
hate. I forgot about that. So there was something there because you remember her whole character was about hating
Well,
on
that's
Jerry
not
Seinfeld.
fair. Hold on. Now
No,
you're
once
blaming
he-
her current actions for her characters. I don't like that. That's how, like, when people.
Oh, you
turn-
wouldn't, you piece of shit.
People turn
like how
on
Luke's
a
arguing is,
comedian.
"You piece of
people
shit."
turn on a stand-up comedian for a bit they do, and it's like they weren't going out and beating people in their real life. It's a joke. But people, well, you said it as part of a performance piece, so you must believe it. That's not cool. That's
Yeah,
not
but I also just don't like. I don't think she's funny. Like it would be one
Oh,
thing
I-
if she was funny, but I don't.
I agree, but that's not what Luke was asking. We can all agree Kathy Griffin isn't that funny.
Well, yeah. In any event,
So I guess I was just kind of saying, like, there are many different flavors of anger.
yeah,
And
it's
some
not
of them
one
are
emotion.
clearly more regrettable.
Yeah.
And others are quite powerful and righteous and
Well, would you say like so? That's interesting that you mentioned that because would you say then that anger is more of a spectrum of the human emotion, old grid or whatever, and that degrees of that cause certain types of reactions or certain levels of reaction are just kind of sliding points on that scale based on what affects you in different ways, right?
I think it's more like layers of an onion, and anger is one layer of analysis. And if you were to dig into anger, and this is what certain meditations do, it's saying like, look at anger, really, really look at it, feel it directly. Like for me, I notice that anger doesn't arise in my mind first; it arises in my chest. I feel a tightness in my chest, and then my
You
mind
should go
kind
to the
of
doctor.
grips. No,
How
I
often
just
does
mean
this
like
happen?
getting annoid. You know, like when
Only
your
whenever I
girlfriend's
go
like,
upstairs
"Won't you
or
come
I
eat
eat
dinner
too
with me
much, or I try
one
to
of these
sit up
nights?" And
fast.
I'm like, "You fucking bitch."
Oh my god. She wants to hang out.
I know, right?
We've talked about this in another cast, how people like to make fun of, ancient people for believing in myths and gods and stuff. Like, did they really believe that crap? And it's a way of explaining the human nature stuff, like the god of wrath or the
Exactly.
god of mischief because these are emotions where it's like, yeah, he was a normal guy, and his wife was yelling at him one day, but she always yells at him, and he just snapped and beat her to death with his hands. And
What? Who are you talking about?
A certain
I'm
god,
saying
right?
things like this would happen.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, he got possessed, but that happened, to my great uncle, or that happened. There's a story of that happening 200 years. Like, there's these through lines that through history that kind of like anger is definitely one that is we're stuck
and
with.
so on that front, right? The idea that your subconscious is sort of filled with all these different subcomponents. You could call them like these personality types, these god types. I found this cool quote, and I thought of it based on a quote you told me. I don't remember what episode it was in.
Yeah,
but
you wouldn't remember.
You said, "I don't remember the books I've read any more than the meals I've ate, but even so, they have made me."
Yeah, Emerson.
So that made me think of this quote.
Piece of shit.
Oh, Ralph Waldo.
This is a quote by like
Great guy.
Ben
Waldy.
Oakley. I'm pretty sure he's like a meditation
Waldy.
teacher, but I forget. He said, "Beware the stories you read or tell. Subtly at night, beneath the waters of consciousness, they are altering your world."
Well, that doesn't rhyme.
And what that made me think
It's not
is that
snappy. Catchy. I can't remember that.
Yeah, there's no rhythm to it.
angry people tell themselves an angry story all the time if they're always angry. And that is altering their subconscious to the point where they're digging themselves deeper and deeper into this problem where they'll never get to alter their view of the world.
Well, this is the problem.
They'll
with-
always be
yeah,
stuck in
it's
anger.
almost as if we've talked about this before as well. It's an ideology, right?
Ideologies.
It's the same problem
can
with
have their
yeah.
fuel.
It's the same
be
problem
anger.
how we see people with
I think.
ideologies, and it's you're molding reality or just what you hear or what you learn or what you see to fit this ideology. And even if information conflicts with that, you figure out a way to put in your model or you reject it.
Do you know why?
And I think anger can be like that too. People who are just angry people or who are angry for whatever reasons they are.
I would say the reason why is that anger, like at the root of anger, is you want to blame the externals and you don't want to question your internals.
Well, can I be angry at myself though?
You can be, but I think here's the perfect story I heard a Buddhist teacher say.
Is it perfect?
It's pronounced perfect storm.
I think it gets to the actual root of anger, even if.
All right,
if,
Luke's going to tell the best story ever because he used the word perfect. Let's hear it, asshole.
I said for this specific purpose, you fucking piece of shit.
It's pronounced Pacific.
He's right. He's right.
That's
Anger
like the third
aside.
time I've corrected
You're
that.
going bald too, by the way.
I'm already bald. You
Good, I just wanted to hear you
just
say
like
it.
you're already ugly. You've been there for years, same as me. Luke.
So you're running. You're going
Piece
to work.
of shit.
You're approaching the bus stop, right? And
Why am I running to a bus stop?
let's say you're going to work and you have to take the bus, and you're looking across the street. You kind
Oh,
of
I thought you meant I was going for like a morning jog.
No, you're running to catch the bus, and the bus starts pulling away just as you
How am I
are
going to catch a
approaching
bus?
the bus stop,
So big.
and you
Yeah,
feel
do I have like a pole for it?
Yeah,
Like
a catcher's mitt,
hook
like a
into the
giant catcher's
exhaust?
mitt.
Jesus Christ. Do you guys want to see me freak
Jesus
out?
stops
his
the
neck-
bus so I could catch it.
His neck is
I
twitching.
feel like
good
if I
story.
get angry, it would be more like Andy Bernard on The Office, you know?
I'm back on board with this story. I didn't realize Jesus was going to stop a bus for me. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah.
So-
So how long did you talk to Jesus for?
The point is, even if you let go of the thoughts like right away because you're a smart person and you're like, oh, people miss buses all the time, part of you
Jesus doesn't.
Part of you for a second will say like, that fucking asshole bus driver, I bet he does this all the time. Something like that.
That piece of shit.
So you're talking about like the corrective use of anger.
No, I'm talking about the birth of it is that you feel helpless in controlling an external.
Really,
and
are you really angry at the bus? Because I know in that situation, I'm always like,
No, you're angry
there
at the
was
bus
a moment
driver.
where I was like,
No,
I should
you're-
really.
You're angry
I
at
should
the
really-
situation.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I should really have been out of the house by now. on the way to
Exactly,
the bus
yeah.
stop.
No, that's
and then
the
when I'm
wisdom
running,
coming in.
But I'm still angry because I'm pissed. I agree with you, Johnny. I'm pissed off at myself for being a piece of shit and not
While
preparing.
I'm running after the bus, I'm angry at him. But once it's gone and it's over, there's no one. The bus is gone. If it's just me by myself, I have to end up blaming myself because, like, yeah, it was my fault.
I think that's a mark of intelligence to be able to do that.
I guess that's a next better step. Because,
I think that's a further step.
Yeah, and then the further
right
step is
direction.
obviously being like, it's going to be fine. Like, you'll just get to work a few minutes late. Like,
You know what phrase
it's not
I
gonna
always say
affect
to myself
the
for that?
hamburger you have for lunch. Like, it's
But
still
that's
going
what
to be
I'm
the
saying.
same
That's
hamburger.
corrective anger. Some anger is just anger. Like, there's people that are just chemically unbalanced, where they're just prone to anger. Even something that shouldn't make them angry. You know, like the cutlery is touching too much while you're putting the dishes away, so they hit you. Like, that's not a reasonable form of anger. That's just an unbalanced person.
Oh, yeah,
Let's
people
just
who get
assume
set
we're
off.
Talking about normal people,
Or like they're sitting there all quiet, and then like you do something, and they go like, "That's enough," and they just like their voice suddenly changes, and you're like, "Oh."
Yeah, the
It
best
jumps like
example
10
of
decibels.
this guy is Philip Gage, the guy who had he was like a railroad worker, and they were laying explosives and a piece of
rod
dynamite went
head.
off too fast, and it shot a steel rod through his head, like clear through, and he survived.
Yeah,
But
right
he
through
had
his head.
huge rage issues and memory issues after that, and that's like the first case study, and they still use it to be like, well, clearly head trauma can affect your emotions.
Isn't that so
and
crazy
stuff.
that head trauma can affect your ability to control something like anger?
Well, it makes sense because you are your brain, right? If you
believe
mess with
that,
I
then it
drop
makes
my
sense.
laptop, it doesn't run as well, you know.
So like
Yeah,
if,
exactly,
if
yeah.
somebody commits murder, right, and they're otherwise psychologically healthy, you might say about that person, they're evil. How could they have done this? But if someone has a horrible head injury during a car accident and then after that became kind of violent and impulsive and then did something crazy, you would say they're a victim of that accident, you know?
Or you would at least look upon them with more sympathy. You would say, terrible what happened, but
sometimes you're the pigeon, sometimes you're the statue.
yeah,
You know what I'm
sometimes
saying?
you're a dog shitting
Anonymous,
on a
you
fire
know that
hydrant.
guy?
Well, that is true, because if somebody
Fuck that guy.
drunk drives and hits a car full of like an innocent family driving, you're like, wow, that drunk driver is such a piece of shit.
Right.
But if for some reason the drunk driver hits a pole and they were driving other drunk people, we think, oh, that's such a tragedy for those other passengers. And it's like, well, they got into the car with the drunk guy too.
We might even think that
I mean, it's still bad.
we might even think that if he just killed himself, we'll be like, oh, unlucky, man. That was stupid. But if he killed someone else, we'll judge his action harsher, even though it's the same action, you know?
Well, yeah, people. That's right. Well, it has different consequences though in terms of the actual practical effects, right? So, I think that's the reason for the difference.
And your connection to it affects it too, right? Because
Yeah,
like people,
Well,
as a
that
bartender,
increases
people
the degree
make,
of the reaction for sure.
people make like naughty, winky, nudge, nudge type drunk driving references and jokes and comments.
It's
to
a
me all
really
the time.
awkward space, like
And it
morally
really,
in the culture.
And Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, we don't have to go into it, but like our family's definitely been affected by drunk driving. And so I've always been very like touchy about that stuff. And when people like try to make a joke or say that, I'll be like, no. Like,
Yeah.
I know that's hypocritical because I joke about really inappropriate things, but I just, generally I just go, nah, I kind of shut down. I'm like, no, it's not funny.
Well, that's a good.
Or
I've
people
never
like try
laughed
to
at one of those
people
jokes.
have tried to argue with me that they like. He's like, I drive better a little buzzed, and I'm like, no, you don't. And like I've gotten really angry at somebody because I know I'm right, and they're not only wrong, but they're being cheeky about something that I think you should take more seriously. And of course, that's every argument about humor. But
well, that's a good point.
But it really depends
Yeah.
because the mark of humor is really simple. Does it make you laugh? And like
that's
those jokes generally don't make me laugh.
That's Always Sunny's kind of guiding principle. Charlie Day said that it.
Oh,
something-
yeah.
He said comedy is or whatever's funny is in good taste. You know if it's in good taste if it's funny. If it's not funny, then it's not in good taste.
that's why Blazing Saddles worked.
Yeah.
Because it was funny and it played at the time and it didn't seem hateful.
And when we
Like,
say
you go back
funny-
and watch it now, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I read this.
Or if you made that movie. Now.
I read this.
And I said it because Mel Brooks said, if you go back, do you regret anything that you ever did in your career? And he's like, no. He goes, Well, maybe Blazing Saddles. It wasn't in good taste. Like, he's comparing it to modern times, but he's like, that could never get made again.
No.
Like,
Neither could The Office. I
was talking to my sister about that just the other day. I was saying how you could not, if you tried to put that on NBC today, it would be canceled by episode 5.
But don't they have Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat and all those shows?
Well,
you couldn't have done those shows.
I don't know what the
ago.
content of those shows are, but The Office definitely pushed the boundaries of,
Well, and at the time it tread exactly on that line, right? And that's, how it was able to do it. But I don't know.
So,
I think it's different today.
Yeah, now if you watch the show now, at least it seems like an undiagnosed autistic man running an office.
Oh, it's much crazier now, it feels like, in some ways,
Yeah.
right? Like
Whereas
having
back
stepped
then,
back
he was
from
just-
it for a few years.
Yeah, he's just doing in some ways he's a great boss. In a lot of ways he's a terrible boss.
Yeah.
Like that kind of a trope of the bad boss.
But he rarely gets
that
angry.
We all roll our eyes at. But yeah, but when you look at it now, you're like, oh, that guy had problems and like wasn't being helped.
Actually, he got angry a lot. But actually,
Michael?
He's a good example of, because when you see him get angry, it's so
his anger is clearly childish.
well, it's so easily to diagnose, and that's why it's so solvable.
It's
That's why he
almost
doesn't stay angry.
dog-like,
It's
like
on a much layered down.
Well, I would say
level.
that's exactly right. I would say because Michael is kind of that childlike character, his anger is what I was trying to say before. Anger is like any emotion. It's
Yeah.
an onion, and you can peel away layers.
Yeah.
At the outer layer of anger is power. You feel powerful, right? If you pull that layer off and say, "Why
On
did
that
I need
surface of the
this?
onion.
Why did I need this power?" It's often because of some kind of fear emotion.
Well, yeah, it becomes more internal in
Yeah.
terms of the direction of that emotion. You're right,
and it's
then-
usually born out of fear, out of like I feel insecure
Right,
about
insecurity, yeah.
controlling what's
And at a
happening
certain-
around me.
At a certain point, you look so far in, I guess, that you just kind of have to accept it.
Well, that's what spirituality is. I would say,
Well, good spirituality.
I would say that's what in some cultures that's what God is. It's accepting. The saying that I think Bali is that a country or
Great
a
guy.
region? There's a saying there that says the two people closest to the gods are children that were just born and old people that are getting ready to die. And the people farthest from the gods are middle-aged people with mortgages.
Do you know what's funny that you say
Yeah,
that?
that makes sense.
There's a famous Shakespeare.
They don't and they're usually the angriest people.
Yeah, there's a famous Shakespeare.
Well, they're busy. We got
Soliloquy.
stuff to do. I got a mortgage to pay, you piece of shit. Get out of here with your goddamn philosophizing. I got to get to work, okay?
Yeah, I got
Move your
kids,
old
fucking
sack
asshole.
of shit, useless bones. You're not making me any money or helping me get home to a goddamn warm dinner, so shut the hell up. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I
Anyways.
could go there very quickly. Maybe
Hey
I
man,
am
you
older.
had that fuel ready to burn.
Yeah, he had it.
Yeah,
on
it's a lot of
lockdown.
dry tinder right now up in the old noodle.
The way Johnny pointed at his noodle was pretty amazing.
Anyways, Shakespeare ends this great soliloquy. I think it's in As You Like It.
It's pronounced squeegee.
And
Yes, solo squeegee.
solo squeegee. No, that's what you do in the bathroom.
I wasn't even sure what that could be before I was going to deny it. So, what is it from? You're not sure?
I think it's As You Like It, but it's this great.
I think it's from the 1500s.
it's this great soliloquy that it's all about this. I forget what he calls it. I think he calls it the stages of life or something. It's that soliloquy that opens. Everybody knows. You've probably heard the first line, Johnny. It's
Yeah,
all the world is
stage,
but
yeah.
a stage or whatever, and we're merely players. Like we have our entrances and come and go.
But we're following a script that
And a
we
many
can't
man,
control.
yeah, in his time, or a man in his time plays many parts. That's like the first couple lines, and it goes on to then.
If love be the food of music,
catalog all the stages of life, and it
Then
starts with
thee
childhood,
saith,
and it goes through like youth, like
play on.
romantic youth, like adult who has to, take care of the family, and then like the wise old man, and then old like age, which ends in what he calls second childhood, and then
which is
oblivion.
true.
Damn.
Because you
Yeah.
lose your teeth.
So second childhood
lose
is
your
after old
eyesight.
age.
Yeah, it's old age into second childhood, and then oblivion.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
The other way to say that is you're
so
born in
good.
diapers and you die in diapers.
Yeah, well, that was his way of saying it.
Well,
And
childhood
it's this great,
also
like,
was-
beautiful soliloquy, and it just ends in like.
I
oh, yeah,
love
second
that shit,
childhood.
man.
Yeah,
Because
I
that's
think the
clawing
mark of-
at the deepness of a lot of shit in life.
Yeah.
And Shakespeare can be artful about
yeah.
it. In
And
like,
I think he says that's like the famous line, like sans teeth, sans eyes, and then it says like sans everything, and then it's like
and then it
oblivion.
says Sand City, enjoy your beer.
like, share, and
Ooh, good
subscribe.
tie-in. Good tie-in. You know what? Can't get angry.
We
about
just
that.
poured International Playboy by Sand City.
You're damn right we did.
Joe picked up these cans today, so they're pretty fresh, I assume.
Yeah, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to
I want to
Sin
just
City.
keep analyzing anger quotes. Because we were talking about, because I feel like we're going in a good direction here. We're talking about external anger versus internal, right? We kind of covered
which direction you project your anger.
Right, we kind of touched on that. So I feel like I have a good quote. I want you guys to guess what president said this.
Nixon.
Fuck. Did you look this up already?
No, you didn't say anything yet. How would I look it up?
Yeah.
He meant, did you look it up like today?
Oh, no.
Okay.
So it's,
no, Joe's like, I was napping.
Never shut up. Shut up. You must never be satisfied with losing. You must get angry, terribly angry about losing. But the mark of the good loser is that he takes his anger out on himself and not his victorious opponents or on his teammates. And yeah, it really was Nixon who said that.
You know what?
I just knew that you would pick a Nixon quote out of all the presidents.
I think that's actually a cool quote because it's sort of like the Jordan Peterson message of saying, take personal responsibility.
It's not nearly as hateful as that. I'm kidding.
Oh, God. I was like, what?
You're triggering him, Johnny.
So the Jordan Peterson idea that he says is the mark of Christianity is that Christ is the symbol of bearing the cross. And no matter who you can blame in the externals, the best thing psychologically to do is to personally accept responsibility. And that's what Nixon's saying there, right?
By best, though.
Most effective.
I don't like how he explains things. He adds some morality to it. I feel like he'd do better to just explain his viewpoints practically, because it seems to be where he comes from, too, which is just, it's most effective or most useful in preparing for the next time. Like we all have bad behaviors we try to improve on. Most common, I think, would be gluttony. Like, how many Thanksgivings in a row have we all been like, I've eaten too much, I shouldn't do that?
But you don't do that all year, you know?
Yeah, but also the next Thanksgiving, I don't be like, I'm going to eat less this Thanksgiving because I don't want to be uncomfortable for 3 hours. Instead, I wait till after dinner. I go, oh God, I did it again.
But you know that you have to feed that part of your mind once in a while so that it won't control you and take you over.
Right. That's not the point I'm making, though. But just the idea that it's... Like,
I love how everything's just colored slightly angrier, Johnny.
Johnny's like, yeah, you fucking idiot. That's not what I mean.
Well, if Nixon's going to lose...
You fucking idiot.
And he's not going to come away from it being angry for anger's sake. If he's going to come away from it being angry at someone, it's going to be to help improve and get it done, do better next. And obviously you can use this motivation for good or evil. In Nixon's case, I think we can make assumptions of what he used his motivation for.
Nixon's saying it very pragmatically, just like this is a pragmatic truth.
That's how I tend to get angry.
At yourself?
I get angry at myself, and I tend to focus on the mistake I made, and me letting it go is being like, all right, like, just try, like, not swearing, I'm never going to do that again, because then when something you mess up, you just get more angry, and it's a really bad feedback loop, but just, like, be like, all right, I'm going to try to not do that, or I'm going to try to not be such an idiot, or you just go, I'm a fucking idiot, and you
but
just
also,
give up that way.
Also anger at that point.
You have to have some write-offs of, like, I'm an idiot write-off.
Yeah, well, that becomes, because otherwise it becomes lingering anger, and that's a much different anger than...
And that becomes resentment.
I'm in a moment and I'm reacting, or like I'm getting angry because something's happening right now and it's very active, versus that type of anger where it like lingers and simmers, and that you should have more time to reflect upon and realize that that's not helping the situation, or that's not leading me. It's only maybe leading me to a better outcome by making me realize that I don't like this feeling. And to avoid it, I have to not do that next time. But you can just say that to yourself and,
you also
and try
have to
really
know
take it seriously. That's the same effect then, right?
You have to know what to not do next time or what to do.
Well,
and
I think
sometimes you don't know.
Well, that's
it's
the point
puzzling.
That's the point of that type of anger then maybe is to keep you vigilantly aware of the fact that, like, no, if I just say, like, oh, I'm going to not do that next time and then just let go of my anger, the next time that comes up, I don't have as negative of an association with it. Whereas if I stay angry...
you understand it.
Yeah, if I stay angry or longer, I know, like, oh, I definitely don't want to feel that way again. The question is that impactful enough for you to actually not repeat that behavior then, and then not have to feel that, anger or self-loathing or whatever? Well, that's a good question, right? Like, how do you know what that threshold is for you?
So I would say... because this is actually leading to one of the few points I actually had prepared for this whole cast, which is
one more than me.
Which is, how do you prepare? Is now this is where the unpopular opinion is going to come out. I don't think zero tolerance for like bullying type behavior is doing a benefit to our society. I think it's hurting. Now, I'm not saying you should beat up kids because they look different or they act different or whatever.
Or that
Clearly
you should promote bad behavior.
Controlled bullying.
But the idea, the idea that zero tolerance, like if somebody's in the playground making up a dumb story or, just
You
think
should call it
Let's
dumb.
think of child levels for now.
Well, the question-
the metaphor scales up, but just think about that some kid, telling a fake story or or something like that, and you could call bullshit on him, and you could take him apart and argue like, no, that's not true. I've been there. They don't have that at that store. You're lying. Like, but I just feel like if you do that to the point where you embarrass a kid, that gets taken as bullying a lot.
Well, the
And
question
it's the
is,
same thing in the public sphere.
you have to define
whereas if
what
you try
bullying
to push
is,
back. Well, if you try to push back against wild claims, sometimes you get labeled as harassing or being hateful or bullying
Simply because
somebody.
you're standing your ground firmly in one spot,
Because
not being
you're
pushed
making
around.
them uncomfortable. And I just think the zero tolerance approach, people never, because like we've all could think back. If you sit there and think about it, you might think I wasn't bullied as a kid or I wasn't a bully as a kid. But chances are you were on one side of that. If you're over a certain age, you were definitely on one side of, or both.
Oh, for sure.
of
You were
that.
both bullied and the person
Right,
getting
because
bullied.
it's part of the human experience. Because you start to kind of, I think that's where the fear of public speaking comes from. You start to learn that before I open my mouth and say some bullshit, I got to be ready to be attacked for it, and I got to be ready to feel really bad and ashamed in front of my peers, and made to look stupid and silly and ridiculed. Because sometimes it is deserved, a lot of time it isn't. But just that idea of not allowing, like shame in general, is totally legitimate emotion. We're kind of just not okay. You can't make anyone
can't- yeah,
feel
I
that,
agree with that.
intentionally or unintentionally.
we can't block it out entirely.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this
And-
really angry discourse on Twitter and the social
Yeah.
media
It's getting taken out somewhere?
because people
Kinda
don't
thing?
have that training of, they take it as if you say something against what they're saying, you're saying it against their very being. Or
Right. It's like,
and
no,
they
I
can't
disagree with your
separate
idea,
ideas.
not with you existing.
yeah,
they
well,
can't
that's the problem.
separate
that you
other
s-
people's ideas and that people because they haven't had to do it with themselves yet.
Well, you see that a lot on social media too, where the attacks aren't necessarily about the arguments; they're at the people. They're directed at the people saying them. So the problem with that is that oftentimes the reason why that happens is because there's not much substance to the argument itself, right? Whereas if you were to attack the argument, it's like, well, it's going to fall apart because then you'll attack my actual argument, and that will fall apart because neither of us actually read this article that we're yelling at each other about on Facebook. We just saw the headline, posted it, and now we're arguing about some, socioeconomic
even if you
bullshit
read it
that
doesn't
neither of us
mean-
know about.
Yeah, even if you read it, it doesn't mean you understood it or you're
That's a great point,
that or that the article is even based in fact at all.
And the fact that, Johnny, this is basically what you just described is what I teach for freshman composition at college is
right. It should be.
It's
I feel like
huge.
it's something we just learned as tribal people. Like,
But we have to have
not
classes
anybody.
now.
I mean, humans. We
have to have classes now for it because it's not a skill that's. I think you're right. It's been taken for granted, and I like so many students when we do this level of argument. Like when we start research writing, for example, they legitimately think that the assignment is to find articles that agree with their opinion and find studies that agree with their opinion. And they're like shocked
how the
when I'm like,
media works.
When I'm like, well, that's like a C- maybe because you did like the work, which would be satisfactory by going through the motions, but you did a poor job at it. And they're like, what? Like, why don't I get an A? And I'm like, you're not even close to an A. Like, you need to really dig into these studies and even ask, well, what does this actually mean?
And I feel like part of that too is if you, I mean, it's easier, a little easier on you because you're at the college level. But
Yeah.
you look at teachers, middle school, high school, like they can't, you can't turn around to a kid anymore and tell them to stop acting like a fucking idiot. Or I'm not saying you should be able to hit kids in school,
Well,
but
you know what's
you used
funny
to be
about
able,
that?
You used to be able to like, you know, at least shame their effort level.
Well,
like if
so
not
many
their
of my-
intelligence.
yeah,
Like, you
so-
used to be able to be like, you really think that this is funny? Does everyone think this kid is funny for ruining everybody's time? Like,
Yeah.
you can't. That's like bullying and harassment.
Well,
and,
so many of
you
my
know, the
students
teachers will sue the
from
school.
other countries, they that's still their school experience. They come to
Yeah.
American college and they're so respectful because they're like they tell me. I have students who took my class.
It's refreshing
now,
to see.
4 or 5 years ago.
I had a student bow to me.
And they still, they still. I have this one student. I talk to him all the time. Like we email and stuff, and because he's just really smart dude, and he's still in all correspondences. Like I've hung out with him before. Like he still calls me professor. He refuses to not, and I tell him all the time. I'm like, dude, you graduated,
and you're like it's cool, and he's like, no, you don't understand.
You call me Joe, and he's
this
like,
is how I do things,
and he's like, no, he's like, you're my professor. Like he's like, and it's funny because otherwise it's totally chill. But he's just like, nope. He's like, he's like, my parents raised me like this way from their culture. I'm like, oh, you're right. It is refreshing. It's kind of like, okay, that's cool because that forces. I feel like that structure in part it reinforces like a system, right? And if you're part of that system, you have to listen to what the teacher has to say then, which ideally is something useful.
If the system is
right.
not corrupt and working properly.
Whereas you're right, today it's like American schools, like I've observed in American schools before, and that's the reason why I don't teach high school, because what I saw in American high school classrooms is just chaos. It's just utter chaos. It's just it's Lord of the Flies.
Me and my girlfriend were having lunch today, and somebody dropped a chair and it tipped over. And I was telling her what we said in our lunchroom if somebody dropped a chair. Can you say it, Johnny?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell the story because I'll tell it better than you.
I don't have a story. That was my story. I'm just...
No, watch. This is how you... I'm saying this is how you tell a story.
To Joe's point, like, Yanka freaked out that we yelled an obscenity.
Well, hold on. Don't just
like
ask me to tell you it and then just steamroll over
I just wanted you to say the one word that I asked you to say.
No,
Johnny,
I'm not
say
here
the story.
to be your beep machine. I'll paint a picture for the people.
Yeah,
it's
Johnny,
theater of the
paint
mind.
a picture. I want to
This is an audio media. So anyways.
So you have no story?
What were we talking about? No, I'm just kidding. Well, we had a lunchroom. We had one lunchroom for the school. It was a small school.
Oh, that's cool. That's an interesting
fit about
detail.
a third of the school.
Luke,
I'm putting them in the place, describing the space.
You're giving useless details like Luke. You're giving numbers. Whenever you start saying numbers, you've gone too Luke.
No, there's no way.
So there were two lunchrooms?
This is how you tell a story.
Oh my God,
it was
shut
Thursday
up.
afternoon. We were sitting around our normal table sharing ham sandwiches. I was selling mine
that's
for...
too much. No one cares about
No, but that's a story.
Shut up, you writer.
Which are you more interested in?
Hear me out.
Johnny
because I'm
hawking
going
ham
somewhere.
sandwiches at lunch or numbers of...
Let me finish my goddamn sentence, and it makes sense why I started with numbers.
Yes,
okay?
they deserve to eat lunch, and I hope they
Holy
eat the
shit.
fried cheese.
So
That's the best
The reason
thing to
I was
watch.
saying about a third of the school could fit in there at any given time, to let you know what was said when what happened. Everyone in the school knew because it could happen at any lunch period. Enough of the school was there observing it at any time. It was a school-wide phenomenon. I was setting that up in the subtext. You pieces of shit.
Oh, I didn't hear
Anyways.
any of that. My headphone fell out for the last 30 seconds.
So loud open cafeteria. Someone knocks over a garbage can or knocks a chair over on that hard linoleum floor. It would make a loud clang, 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 and echo throughout the space. And there would be that momentary hush because you didn't know if it was a fight or whatever. That's just the human response. Oh, what was that? And it would start as like a low hum. And you would just hear the whole room collectively say this word as in rising pitch. They go, dick. And it was the word dick. But they would call you a dick for doing it.
But we would do it as a mob.
Even teachers would laugh. And it was the most fun was a new teacher on lunch duty the first time it happened.
They're like, oh my God, I'm
I'm
surrounded by monkeys.
But
these kids can't say this word, but I have no control in this situation.
Right, because
you can't punish everybody.
Yeah, and you can't just arrest one to make an example.
That's the first brilliant observation of like a young adult kid is to know that like, hey, we can't be punished as a group of like hundreds of kids.
But that's what it was really about. It was really us reminding them that at any moment we could turn and eat them.
Yeah.
Like they have all the power.
literally, if we wanted to eat them, we
could tear them apart, bar the doors, and just eat them.
But that was to your point, Joe, that like different cultures. I was telling my girlfriend about this yelling dick when a chair falls thing, and she was like,
we're going to clip that
She was
line.
like, you would be expelled from a school in Turkey if you did that.
Like all the students?
Yeah, they would just say you're all out. But that's going to close the school down, headmaster. Fine. I'd rather die with honor.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's more like that.
Yeah, the principal's like, that's not worth the like
you
state
go to
funds we're gonna
school.
lose.
Yeah.
Like
the fact that she
like,
could
I get a
say that
toaster
so
with wheels.
confidently means everybody in that Turkish cafeteria would know that.
Yeah.
So no one person would do it.
Exactly.
Not the whole group.
Well, no, somebody would, but when it happens, it does get shut down.
Well, that's where
because people are still monkeys, and eventually some kid's going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to do it anyways."
Some kid's going to be a little nihilistic and say, "Let me just take the risk." And
Turkish Jimmy's gone.
Holy shit! I got to talk about this beer, guys. It's amazing. Captain Boots. It's an imperial brown ale with, oh my gosh, it's got muscovado, sugar, coffee, and cinnamon.
Ooh.
It was really good. Also,
Can you pour me some of that?
Cerveceria, Captain Boots. And it's got a picture of a little.
Can you
dog
bring that up with you?
If there's any left, I'm probably going to drink this all.
Oh man,
this is a really good beer.
Yeah, I mean, don't bring up an open can with you.
So yeah, Johnny Genie's going to be joining us in our northern studio next week or week after. I think.
Soon, couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we're going to do
very
a
excited.
Cast, yeah.
In studio cast. The whole
let's get
bottle
weird.
Share.
We're going to get
I'll
weird.
Bring some rare beers. We're going to get after it.
I'll Uber home so we can get properly.
Yeah, nobody cares about your car.
Oh my god!
Nobody cares how you get to in here.
But we all care about the one lunchroom story.
I love how
it had to be one lunchroom.
I love how wide
that you
Johnny's
brought
eyes
up
get when he's angry.
and I tried to save. That story? Is that the one you meant, Luke?
No, it was the point I was making, connecting to Joe's point.
You got nothing.
I got nothing. I lost my train of thought.
Good attempt. That was a good attempt.
All right. Here's a quote by a Buddhist teacher. That,
Oh, nobody cares.
Yeah. No, you ready for it?
What's his name?
It's this guy
Sound
Joseph Goldstein. Somebody
like
asked,
a Buddhist name, but okay.
He's a Westerner who went. He's the guy who basically brought Buddhism.
Pretty racist, Johnny.
To the United States. Somebody asked him, like, do you find yourself getting angry? Like you're a fucking like professional meditator, like for 50 years. Like what the fuck? Like,
what's
what
that
is your
about?
day-to-day life? You know. And he said, it's rare that I lose my temper at this point. By the way, rare doesn't mean never, right?
What's the deal with all this self-composure?
It's rare that I lose my temper at this point, but it's not rare that different emotions are going to come up, moods come and go. And it's
very meditative to say.
It's the key element to mindfulness or the general world of meditation, which is that the moods have a loose grip on you.
Yeah, and I don't think it's everything that we've been talking about. Like, it's not as if we're saying that the key is to eliminate anger, because I think I was having a conversation with somebody recently about it's the same thing with sadness. Like, I feel as if sadness gets stigmatized almost because depression is so bad. Depression is such a bad result of certain types of sadness and certain types of, I guess, toxic sadness. But sadness is also a very real, valid, normal, healthy emotion.
Of course.
When a family member dies, you're very sad, and that's okay. That's part of the grieving
phase
process.
of that's not good for you, right?
What?
If
somebody
sadness,
dies and you just like medicate through the sadness,
no, that's my point. Yeah,
quite as fully.
Yeah. So it's not about eliminating these emotions, but it's about them being for healthy reasons, right? Like you wouldn't eliminate sadness for that reason. So I feel as if anger, in some ways, must be similar, right? As you say, the meditative, meditation Buddhist monks, like they still feel it, but they feel it for what it's worth. Like that quote,
and you know what
it
they
comes
say?
And goes. Like
they
all
say
the
it
other
has
emotions.
a half-life that is quite short. And what happens with
which it
anger,
probably should be, yeah.
And next time you're feeling angry, I try to do this, and one of the hilarious things is like when you meditate a lot. I've been meditating on this new Sam Harris app that came out.
You would.
And so I think I'm going to try to write like some kind of blog post. I'm hitting 30 days tomorrow.
That's definitely a great idea. People want to hear about you sitting there not doing anything. It's definitely riveting reading that the masses need.
That's
Please
exactly what an angry idiot would say.
No, I don't like all the mindfulness thing. Can I push back? Unpopular opinion, Johnny.
If you've got something, I'm happy to argue it.
It's too self-aware to the point where I can't enjoy it. Like, do you really think a porn star can just enjoy sex the same way someone who doesn't have a professional take on it?
It would depend on the person.
Like if you're a really good professional
That's
porn
not true.
star,
You could say the same thing about chefs. Like, can a really good chef enjoy
cooking at home?
Cooking at home for his family? Yeah, I know a chef who does that.
They might enjoy cooking at home, but can they really enjoy a meal as easily as the average person? Like, even a good meal, if they're gonna see all.
So
the
what is your
issues
parallel in the
and
mindfulness
choices.
thing? Then I lost the thread of the
think
metaphor.
the average person is a piece of shit.
I was doing it
compared to a
about
chef.
dicks, but you guys had to go with food. It's just the idea that if you if I'm too aware of the processes, it's going to take me out of the. It's like a director. How about this? A director watching a movie. To them, it's a lot harder to suspend that disbelief because they've done it. They know, they've shaped it. They know, like that. They did that shot by having the camera on a crane, or that was a cool.
But what does that have to do with
perspective
mindfulness?
I'm saying it takes them out of a movie. Like,
are you saying that it kind of breaks the ability to be happy because you are aware that it's all an illusion?
Not be happy. I think it removes you a level of truly experiencing and living in the moment by training yourself to be so aware of the moment happening.
I don't agree with that at all.
I see what you're saying.
What kind of Buddhist I am.
No, because that would be like an astrophysicist making a new discovery, and you're like, oh, clearly they're like, this is just like not that exciting. I think if anything, their excitement might be greater because they understand how difficult it was to get there.
Yeah,
than the average
I would
person.
say that's a great comparison. Johnny,
that is what you're saying.
What I can tell you is that, like, since I was 25, I found out about the world of meditation, and I've been in and out of it. I've gone as long as 3 months without doing it once, and I've gone 30 days doing it every day. This most
We're
recent
talking about
one,
meditation, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
This most recent one where I'm trying to take some notes about the new Sam Harris app because like it's a totally kind of different approach. I didn't do it every day. I missed a few days for various reasons, but
no one cares. Yeah.
The point is, when you start doing meditation a lot, what you notice is the basic shit in life you're more present for. Like if you're just sitting on the couch, you're more present. You're like, I have a home, I ate a meal, and like you have more gratitude for the basic things. I feel more present when I'm generally meditating.
Right, and that's as per my astrophysics example.
I think,
because you understand the elements of it, and you understand how amazing that is, or how unique that is, or it's spectacular, or however you want to phrase it or characterize it.
I realize that everything is just this arising in consciousness, and it could go in so many awful ways. And I imagined how many people that day would love to be me, would love to be simple, poor me with barely any money but healthy. There's
I know
plenty.
I know at least one person who would.
That's a great way to magnify gratitude in your mind.
I agree with Johnny.
I can think of at least two people now.
Well, Johnny, this is an experiment I use. For you, it's a little harder because nobody would want to imagine being you, obviously. Like,
that's it? That's all you got? Where's the personal
Look, there's
hate?
no
Come on,
follow-up.
man.
You just end
You
there.
gotta, put your own stamp on it.
It's like I put the volley up in the volleyball game and nobody slammed it down.
Yeah.
All right, you're bald, motherfucker.
I would legitimately disagree with you, though. I
don't see how. But
you're too aware of it.
But then the alternative is lying to yourself.
No, I see what you're saying, Johnny.
No,
you're basically
I'm
saying like you can get lost in the wonder of
Are you
things
saying heuristics,
by not
basically, Johnny?
fully understanding them, right? Like that's like you say, like if I work in special effects at like an amusement park,
I mean, like
and I go on that ride, it's not going to amaze
I do some
me.
meditative practices, like I try to center myself, and I try to I
think you're just shit at meditating.
No, I just don't enjoy it that much. But
You piece of shit.
I find it makes me too contemplative too. I want to enjoy the moment. I don't want to constantly be analyzing how I'm perceiving the moment. And
I mean, you don't have to do that.
That's not what meditation is, though.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
No, I'm not saying meditation is that. I'm saying when you do meditate a lot, it does hone those skills and that mindfulness. You're aware in your own mind. Yeah, it's good in some ways, but
so
it's not necessarily the best thing, or it's great for everybody. I think it just it's the same thing. Like if you're listening to a symphony for the first time and you're just really paying attention and leaning in and experiencing, isn't that different than like reading the sheet music along? Like it takes you out of the experience, even though you're getting more out of it information wise and like technically.
So
but it's taking you out of the designed experience.
Yeah, but that's different than understanding it. Reading sheet music is doing something different.
Yeah, reading sheet music while listening.
Level of participation and like
yeah, but I don't think that's a parallel to meditation and mindfulness.
Let me give two definitions
different
here.
Things that you're saying.
The Tibetan word for meditation,
which are good. They're good words.
The Tibetan word that we call meditation more literally translates as familiarization. Meditation is familiarization.
I actually like that because I feel like that makes much more sense.
And
to
then
normal
mindfulness
people, right?
comes from a Pali word, and that translates as remembering. So
yeah, because mindfulness as a word doesn't really mean much. If you ask the average person on the street, like the average American, how do you define mindfulness? They'd probably say hippie.
I ask my
care
students
what
that
the
all the
average
time.
person
Yeah,
means.
I
It's
get
about
so
what
many
the word
different
actually
definitions.
means.
Yeah, like remembrance, they know. Like if you ask somebody what remembrance means, they can give you
Not remembering, just like the quality
Yeah.
of remembering.
Yeah, they can give you a definition and examples. But mindfulness, I feel like a lot of average people probably don't have a definition for.
The common
imagine.
definition I've heard is somebody would be like, "Oh, are you mindful of how much you're drinking right now?" For example, like it means awareness, right?
Right.
But
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
just means have you approached it from all separate angles. It's not just the reactionary.
Yeah,
I've only had
right.
2 beers today. It's
Right.
like, yeah, but have you had 2 beers every day by this time of the day for the
and
last
8 beers
2,000
and you're going to
days?
drive home now.
Right.
You're not mindful of the actual question.
And were they
by
10%
zooming out.
stouts?
Noticed it.
Yeah, you weren't
Yeah.
mindful of the spirit of the question.
I
right?
actually heard a great beer scam. Someone was telling me that he used to work at a beer store, and
Okay.
it was one of those build your own 6-pack areas, but it had a sign that said only beers in the choose your own 6-pack cooler. So he went to the display, took 12 Bourbon County stouts or whatever Bourbon counties, and put them in 2 6-packs and bought 2 $9.99.
And he got away with it?
Got away with it. Each bottle should have been like $10.
yeah, that means
I
that
thought
the
that was
guy
funny.
working had no idea about beer and didn't.
Well,
like,
it was like a Whole Foods or something. They
Oh,
don't know
nice.
they don't know what the rare beer is. It's
That's
some
true, yeah.
19-year-old checkout person. They're like, I scan the 6-pack. It's a build your own. Like the barcode's on the 6-pack. You just scan that,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh no, he got like a lot of money.
I went to a place a couple of months
I'm
ago
angry.
that they had well, they didn't have make your own 6-pack, but the normal place I go to does. So I just went there and like, I saw that they just had beers on their shelf, and I just took a bunch and like put them together. And then I went to, and they had signs everywhere that they said like, do not mix beers. And they had all the other ones already connected. And I took it up to the counter and he looked at it and he like panicked. You could see it in his eyes. And he said to me, "Where did you get that?" And I just looked at him and I said,
the shelf.
"Over there."
From
and then
the
he
beers?
said, "Just give me a second." And he went over and like was looking around, and then he saw that there were just some beers out. Like somebody had clearly made their own 6-packs.
And he didn't catch it earlier.
And he didn't catch it, or there was
Did he let you get away
There was
with it?
another cashier there, and he came back and he was just like, "Oh, okay." So you could tell like I wasn't supposed to,
but he wasn't going to deny you at that point.
Yeah, because then I would have been like, "Oh, now it's on." You know?
Can
like,
I ask
Now you got angry,
Yeah.
Joe.
You got me
Can I ask
going.
Luke, I was totally kidding. I'm all into meditation and mindfulness. I just wanted to. I was really trying to get you to get angry so I could point out you're a hypocrite by your
So-
reaction. But
Hypocrite
for
piece of
some
shit.
reason, you were smart enough that when we started talking about like actual meditative practices, you became reasonable and you kind of corked the uncorked rage we've all been trying to fuel for the cast. So
Yeah.
you didn't fall for my trick. But I just
Well-
want to let you know I actually am pro meditation. I do.
That's
it
good to
from
know.
time time.
You did a good job at playing devil's advocate. Although a few times me and Joe were very good at being like, so where does it come back to mindfulness though?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like someone that
Train's getting slippery.
agreed with me would agree with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. If
Yeah.
somebody
Well,
were
you're-
bound to
you're-
want to agree with you, they would have.
Well, you're
been
representing.
convinced.
You're definitely representing a viewpoint for sure. I just think it's.
Yeah, I was trying.
It's on slightly different terms. It's an interesting viewpoint, and it's one worth. I think it's one worth discussing, and that's the problem. Again, going way back to when we were talking about social media. Like, there's no room for discussion. It's all just about how do I berate my ideology into others, and this is just known fact.
And
I
I
I'm
would
assuming that it's known fact, and everything else is either fake or lying or wrong.
I would say that the people
And there's
that
no
feel that
room. There's no room to grow or change. Like, changing is a bad thing.
I would say the people
on
that
social
feel
media,
that
and that's bad.
they feel that as a compensation because they feel so insecure in other parts of their life that they need something to feel so tightly grasped
I agree, yeah.
to, and
Yeah.
like the whole point of anger, the whole not the point of anger, but the whole solution out of anger is learning to let go of it
Well, again, I think a solution
when you should.
Well, the whole solution to toxic anger, to like anger to the point where it starts to negatively affect you because and others around you, because like we said, there's certainly valid reactions where it's you think, all right, anger may be okay here, right? Like as long as it's not.
Let's even use a better word, useful.
I think usefulness is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think, Johnny, you remember the Ron Chernow Washington biography?
Yeah, it's my favorite autobiography.
It's amazing. And he talks all the time about how George Washington, one of his greatest traits was the fact that he rarely got angry. He was always very kind of reserved and stern and direct. Yeah. But people knew when he got angry, it would
he got angry a lot, but it was never in like the professional domain. It was always at like his slaves and servants and shit. He would do a thing where when tension started to rise, he would never get angry. So like if he was able to keep cool. Like he would ask somebody something or two aides something or two military people like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And then they would start getting all heated and they might even attack Washington personally. Well, you're being a coward about it. And he'd just go,
right.
And let them get all worked up until they got calmed down and then until eventually they'd be like, well, what do you actually think? He'd be like, oh, well, now that you're calm, I'll give my opinion.
That's a skill that I've actually learned in relationships is when someone gets really angry at you, just let them talk.
He mentions in it, he thinks a big reason, or he doesn't think, but he supposes a reason might be because of his insecurity about his teeth. When he argue and get excited, his dentures would pop out. So if he stayed if he stayed real,
it's amazing. If like his deep motivations wasn't like, how do I be a better person, but like my fucking teeth are gonna fall out.
How do I honorably lead this new country
without
to
my
victory?
teeth falling out?
Not right,
without looking like an old toothless lady, of course. And
without talking like that lady from the new Star Wars movie.
A lot of great. You've got to find the force in yourself, Luke. It's so hard.
I remember, Johnny, I remember when you told Luke that Princess Leia had dentures, Luke just broke.
The rebellion.
I re-saw the whole movie in my mind, like without the denture, with the dentures and like.
Have you rewatched it since then?
I hate them. You fucking fake. Do you have teeth or do you not have teeth?
My grandma used to do that to freak us out.
Angry.
Do you remember that, Johnny? We used to be like, Nanny, do the teeth, do the fake teeth, and she would pop them out and shatter them, and we'd be like, ah. And run away.
Yeah. But Luke, like it's on skeleton. Netflix right now. Yeah. You should watch it because the resistance will live on. it's like so good.
And it's like, if you
sound like toothless Sean Connery.
Yeah, that's kind of what what the performance reminded me of.
So, for example, in that kind of situation,
Listen, Miss Money Pusher, you must use the force.
With a horseradish. That's just him normal.
When I want to ridicule a situation like that, I feel like mentally I let my anger off the leash and give it like 50 more feet of room, and I can come up with funnier jokes by being more mean to people.
Oh, that's what the podcast is for me.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, and I think that's how comedy and anger work so well together.
But mindfulness is knowing that I have a leash on it.
Yeah.
Not letting it go and being like,
well, that's
go
like
kill.
How many great comedy or stand-up routines have you seen where the comedian gets angry, the crowd loves it, and part of that whole premise is that the crowd knows that the comedian's not really angry.
Yeah, why is real anger
like Louis
so
C.K.
terrifying?
That's his...
Like, when someone's like having a real angry moment and you're not on that level and you're staring down at your own pant leg angry versus fake anger is hilarious. Why? What is that?
I think that's what I just said.
Well,
though.
that's what I mean. It's mimicking something that's very real for us.
My question.
Like we can all this is all a part of us. You can't get rid of anger. You can only deal with it.
I think it's funny when you can show that you are wiser than the anger, but giving into it in just the right way.
It's hard to avoid anger altogether. So I think, and I'm sure it's possible, and plenty of people maybe have figured that out. But I think almost as useful is, like you say, is learning to handle it.
Play with it.
Well, learning to handle it, learning when to not give it that leash, like you say, right?
Me and my girlfriend have come to a very funny agreement about anger, which is if we're feeling kind of annoyed at the other person, we're allowed to say something really nasty and like a playful, like a cat hitting you on the face.
That's not bad. Yeah.
So I'll be trying to cook something, and she's trying to cook something, and we both have to go somewhere, and I'll be like, "Get out of the way, you piece of shit," and it's like a cat just going and be like, "Meow."
Yeah. You're
or how if you need to do laundry, but she did laundry, but she hasn't moved it to the dryer yet.
Is this what's happening right behind you?
You can look at her in the eye and be like, your parents don't love you, right? Is that what you mean, Luke?
Yeah, I mean exactly. You try and tear them down at their base, not at the top levels,
Or they're vacuuming.
Cry.
They're vacuuming, and they give you that look like, can you please move your feet while I try to vacuum? And then you just look at them and go, you'll never be enough, right? For yourself, I mean.
No matter what you try, you will always not be
It'll
enough.
never be enough. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, you need to tell people the way it is. That's the truth. I was going to say one more thing about anger, which is it makes you want to say the truth, but...
Well, I just shouldn't fall for it. The last 3 times Luke has won the hang-up game, as he says, I just want to say one more thing, which he says all the time because he's an idiot, even though he has a dozen more things to say. But he always goes, I got one more thing, and then very ham-handedly tries to hang up. And I know on his end, he's like, yeah, we got him so much, blah, blah, blah. So I should have seen it coming. I knew it was coming. As soon as he brought the girlfriend thing up, I knew he was out of stuff to talk about. Because, come on, you guys listen to the cast, But thanks for listening. If you like this combative stuff, I kind of liked it too. It's kind of fun to be mean to 2 of my really good friends. Mostly because I know we're kidding. Hope you guys did too. Unless that ruins it for you, in which case we hate each other. But let us know if we should do more angry stuff. And I'm going to get these suckers back next time. They got it coming. They don't even know. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
That was too easy.
He's pissed.
Is he?
Oh, he lost the
Did you hear him last hang-up game?
He lost.
He was like,
no.
that episode, what time is it?
Well, he lost.
That episode actually just auto-posted 20 minutes ago.
Vikings?
The Vikings episode.
Nice. That's a great episode.
So I was just editing that together today, and I was
That's a funny one.
Whenever we hang up, we don't know what Johnny is saying now.
He's upset right now because he lost. Not only did he lose again,
you think he's angry?
Which he always does, but he lost the anger episode hang-up game, so he's raging right now. I feel pretty good.
But in the Vikings one, we also won.
Of course we did.
Like the true Vikings that we are.
Yeah.
And Johnny had some pathetic ending where he was just like,
he did.
oh, I guess they... And he kind of just trailed off. I was like, all right, I guess that's Johnny's take.
Yeah. Well, we'll give him some freebies coming up. You got to give a dog.
So we won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
But the last 2 episodes, like the Brewer episodes, there wasn't really any hang-up vibe going on.
Oh, okay. I didn't listen to those.
So Johnny was by himself for one of them, and then I Skyped in. I think I lost that one. But
are you serious?
Yeah, but I gave it to him,
Oh, okay.
So this one...
That checks out.
We win. We win again.
We are winners. You losers.
Anything else about anger that you can think of?
Speaking of someone who gets angry, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
And insecurities, right? I mean, that's a good case study.
So I like the layer angle to anger. I think anger is actually fear. If you were to...
It's fear of difference in different forms, but I think it comes back to fear.
Yeah.
Like insecurity is a fear in its own way.
That's
right?
what I mean.
Yeah,
like fear is a big category of many different sub-emotions.
Yeah.
And I think anger is a delusion, and it's almost like when the drug of anger gets pumped into your consciousness.
Yeah.
You are going to see the world through a diluted viewpoint, and you are going to highlight the faults in other people, and you will unhighlight the positive attributes.
Yeah.
And if any of those faults have a cross-check analysis with what went wrong, you will say that caused that.
It's just a switch, and then that person is that thing that you've decided. It's so weird how there's no room for nuance anymore. There's such like shrinking ability to be able to accept the fact that, hey, most people who you think are great have done some really shitty things.
And that's okay.
And a lot of people who you think are really shitty have probably done some okay things.
The mark of a very simple mind is that you start dividing the world into good people and bad people. Because
it gets scary.
That's just not how it works.
It's like, what's scary is that I feel like more and more it's dividing people into good people and bad people, but by group, by identity, right? So it's like, not only are you bad people, but you're bad people of this certain type.
Or you can be an ally.
Well, you can be lots of things.
But, I mean, yeah, it's true that people are binding you more to your group identity, whether that's race or religion, and less to your belief identity.
Yeah.
I think we should be grouped by our belief identity. I want to be grouped into the identity of admitting that ever since the French Revolution, we've been struggling to find a balance between individual freedom and equality. And those are, on some level, there are two forces that have tension between each other. And all the political turmoil that's happened since then has been, how do we find a balance between everyone having an equal outcome and people having individual freedom? And they somewhat contradict, so we have to there's a tension between those two. And if you see the world from that zoomed out place, you don't get angry at the political whatever shit happened, whether that's the Covington Catholic thing or whatever is happening on TV that day. You see it as a bigger picture.
Well, that's what bothered me about the Covington Catholic thing, was the fact that everybody had an opinion and everybody was furious. And it to me, that's just
the anger wasn't about that issue. The anger was about
the anger was about a lot of things beyond that.
It was a fuel that individual people have been burning in their consciousness for a long time.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about anger. It's a fuel that makes you feel powerful, but it's when you're in your car and you're behind one of those dump trucks or something, and you're at a red light, you're like, Jesus, look at that truck. And then the light turns green and the truck starts to go, and it accelerates so slowly, and the amount of black that comes out of that truck, that's burning anger.
Yeah.
When you burn anger, all that blackness is the destruction you leave behind you as you accomplish what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it can fuel you to do what you want to do, but it fucking destroys things on the way.
Yeah, it's a destructive force in that sense.
So if you're going to burn anger, you better be mindful about what you're doing.
So one last thing I want to say about anger is that I think this is my advice, and I don't know what it's worth, but it's just kind of what I feel like I've noticed works for me. Like you were saying, meditation has really worked for you in a lot of ways. I find that, as I was just saying earlier, that the fact that everybody, I'm okay with everybody thinking that they have a right to an opinion, because I think that's important to have opinions and to share them. I think that's vital. But my issue is now with social media that everybody thinks they have just as valid an opinion on everything as everyone else. And I think that's a problem, because it's impossible to be informed to the degree that you should be to be arguing whether or not something should be done differently with people.
Exactly.
Johnny's calling us back. What do we do?
Let's end the podcast.
Okay. Like, share, and subscribe.
Wait a second here. End the podcast. You can pick up.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. This has been the podcast on anger.
And we'll see you, hopefully.
We'll see you next time. We're not angry at you if you don't download this.
Yeah, hopefully on Patreon we'll see you.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Bye.